Hello everyone. In today's science lesson, we are going to revisit the learning from this week's Wednesday lesson to help you with the independent work and to enable you to complete the quiz at the end of this lesson. The learning intention is to learn how oxygen is moved around the body. Scientific skill is to use scientific language and illustrations to communicate and justify your ideas. The key words are trachea is a windpipe, bronchi is one of two tubes that branch from the trachea and carry air into the lungs. Alveoli, the many small airbags in the lungs with thin walls that allow oxygen to enter the blood. Capillary is a very thin tube, especially one of the smaller tubes that carry blood around the body. And diaphragm is the muscle that separates the chest from the lower part of the body. I will give you a quick overview of how oxygen is moved around the body. And then we will look at this process in more detail. So look at this diagram. In order to get oxygen out of the air, we need to breathe. So this process involves the diaphragm, which is a muscle that aids breathing and is located just below the lungs. When it arches down, it opens up the lungs, and this allows air to come in through our mouth or nose, down the trachea towards the lungs. The lower section of trachea branches out into smaller passages called bronchi. Bronchi are then branched into even smaller tubes, bronchioles, which at the end contain air sacs called alveoli. This is where the exchange of gases with the blood takes place. Following the transfer of oxygen from the alveoli to the bloodstream, the oxygen is then transported around the body by red blood cells, by hemoglobin, and it's pumped around the body by the action of the heart. Oxygen is then used in our body to release energy from food. This process produces carbon dioxide, which is then transported back to the lungs by the blood, where the transfer to alveoli takes place, and it eventually gets expelled from the lungs via the trachea as we breathe out. Let's look at this process of oxygen being moved around the body in more detail. Inside your chest, on either side of your heart, you can find two inflatable sacs called lungs. They're like warm, wet sponges inside. The left lung is usually the smallest of the two because it has to share some of its space with the heart. When we breathe in, air reaches the lungs via the trachea. Humans breathe around 25,000 times per day, although this can vary depending on what we're doing. An interesting fact is the lung is the only organ that is capable of floating on water. As you take a breath, air flows through your nose or your mouth and travels down the windpipe. It moves past the voice box and into tubes inside the lungs called bronchi. You can see four images in front of you. The first image is the picture of the lungs and the heart, and then this image is enlarged. So bronchi branch into smaller and smaller tubes known as bronchioles. Then on the second picture, at the very end of the tiniest bronchioles are air sacs called alveoli. These are the pictures 3 and 4. These air sacs look a little bit like small balloons. Alveoli exchange gases with the blood. In total, the human lungs contain over 300 million alveoli, which have a combined surface area of around 75 square meters. These alveoli contain tiny capillaries where the respiratory and the circulatory systems meet. Hemoglobin is a protein that contains iron and is responsible for making our blood dark red color. It's in red blood cells, and it absorbs the oxygen from the breath you took and carries it to all the cells in your body. Oxygen is then used in our body to release energy from food. The process happens in reverse too. The process of releasing energy from food produces carbon dioxide, which can be transported back to the lungs by the blood. As blood circulates through your body, it picks up carbon dioxide, which is of no use to the body. When red blood cells carrying the carbon dioxide reach the capillaries in the alveoli, they unload the waste products into the lungs. Then you breathe out and get rid of the unneeded gas. On this picture, you can see the function of diaphragm. Breathing in and out happens thanks to the diaphragm, and it's a muscle that aids breathing and is located just below the lungs. When the diaphragm arches down, it opens up space in your lungs and air rushes in to fill them. When the diaphragm arches up, it pushes the lungs together and forces air out of them through the windpipe. Your independent work today will consist of 2 activities. You can always pause at the end of each one and complete your work. So, activity 1. In this activity, you'll have to use the images on the handout and organize them in an order which captures the journey oxygen makes from the point A is inhaled. Please order the images and write a couple of sentences for each image to create a storyboard describing the journey. The challenge is to extend your writing until the point carbon dioxide is exhaled from the body. Please use the rocket words from the lesson at the bottom of the handout. So you can pause the video now and complete the first activity. Okay, welcome back. The second activity actually has 2 options. For option 1, if you have sufficient resources at home, such as a plastic bottle, an elastic band, scissors, 2 balloons per bottle, and some modeling clay, you can make your own model lung. If you want to do it, then please follow the detailed instructions on your home learning menus. Once you've created your model lung, please identify what parts of your model represent what parts of the lungs using the handout on the next slide. Then draw a label diagram of the lungs on the same handout, including all the parts mentioned in the word bank. For option 2, if you don't have sufficient resources at home, obviously you can't make a model lung, but you would still have to draw a label diagram of the lungs on the handout, including all the parts mentioned in the word bank. So this is activity 2 handout. Please complete it. Use the word bank on the bottom left, sorry, on the bottom right. The words such as diaphragm, capillaries, alveoli, bronchi, trachea. And after you complete the tasks, please try have a go at completing a stretch and challenge activities as well. So you can pause the video now and complete activity 2. Okay, welcome back. Now it's the quiz time. There are going to be 5 questions. You can pause the video after each slide and answer the questions in your books. And then at the end, I will share the answers with you. So let's look at the questions. Question 1. The respiratory and circulatory systems meet at the trachea. Please choose one answer. Is it true or false? Question 2. Fill out the blanks. Select the missing words in the text. So the respiratory and circulatory systems meet in the number 1, either alveoli or bronchi or trachea. They contain tiny number 2, either capillaries or air sacs or nutrients. And your number 3 is either red or white blood cells. Blood cells absorb the oxygen from the breath you took. It carries this oxygen to all the cells in your number 4, either a body or brain or muscles. The blood also picks up number 5, either carbon dioxide or oxygen or water, as it travels around your body, which is no use to the body. So that's your question 2. Please take your time. You can pause the video now as well. Question 3. Order the route air takes through your body. Drag the answers into the correct order. Please note the third option, it travels, does your trachea, doesn't make sense, there is a mistake, so it should say it travels down your trachea. Question 4. When the diaphragm arches down, what happens? Please choose one answer. It either opens up space in your lungs and air fills them, or it pushes the lungs together and forces air out of them. And the last question, number 5, which organ is responsible for your breathing? Choose one answer. It can be the lungs, or the heart, or the diaphragm, or the rib cage. So please pause the video now and answer the questions. Okay. Welcome back. And the answers are number 1, it's false, because the respiratory and circulatory system meet in the alveoli, not in the trachea. Number 2, so the answers are under the box. So I will read out the sentences with the correct answers. The respiratory and circulatory system meet in the alveoli. They contain tiny capillaries, and your red blood cells absorb the oxygen from the breath you took. It carries this oxygen to all the cells in your body. The blood also picks up carbon dioxide as it travels around your body, which is no use to the body. So let's go next. Question 3. So the correct order is, as you take a breath, air flows through your nose or your mouth. Then it travels down your trachea. And finally, the air flows into tubes inside your lungs called bronchi. Well done. So question number 4. When the diaphragm arches down, what happens? It opens up space in your lungs and air fills them. And the last question, which organ is responsible for your breathing? The correct answer is the diaphragm. So well done, everyone. You did a really good job. If you have any further questions, please ask your teachers. Please post your work on the Padlet and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.